don't know what the hell is going to happen at quarterback with them the rest of the year. They were lucky to escape it with that win against the Colts. The Steelers just see like they have a horseshoe up their ass this year where they like look terrible and they win the game late, and it's just like their MO. The rest of the West is bad. And I feel like the Jets, and they got to prove it, and they'll have a chance to prove it. They're better than the Chargers. They're better than the Raiders. They already beat the Broncos. You can kind of file those teams away to an extent. I think, that next middle tier, it's just kind of like your flavor. The Bengals are also like a weird wild card here because how healthy is Burrow going to be? It feels like they have no business being 3-3, but they are. And
Let me ask you this. I have a great way to do this. Jets playoffs, opening round. Rank these opponents from team you'd most want to play to team you would least want to play. Right. Buffalo, the Steelers, the Browns, the Bengals, and Jacksonville.
Man, I'm assuming these are all on the road. As much as the Jets have the history of beating Buffalo and then owning Josh Allen, I think I still narrowly put the Jaguars or Steelers number one. I've seen the Jets win in Pittsburgh with Zach Wilson. And I feel like Pittsburgh, like if they're not, you're going to be in a game no matter what. It's just a matter of whether you can squeak it out late. Like
their offensive line stinks.
I think they have to be one. And the Jets will get after Pickett. I just feel like bad-ish quarterback. You could beat him up. I think then it's a conversation between Jacksonville and Buffalo. I think it's not as scary to play in Jacksonville as it is to play in Buffalo. And while the Jets have beat up on Josh Allen, they didn't win in Buffalo last year. They maybe if Mike White still stays healthy, they do. I just think like playing in Buffalo in January versus playing in Jacksonville in January, I'll take my chances in like Jacksonville sleepwalking like they did early in that game against the Chargers and the Jets not totally falling apart. But I think 2 and 3 is that. The Browns, I would put them because I don't want to play that defense. Zach Wilson against that defense is a nightmare. I'm worried about that Thursday night game because they're going to need that Thursday night game. And that defense against Zach, I just feel like is a shit matchup for the Jets.
Yeah, you might have him throw it like 7 times.
Yeah, that game's going to be disgusting. It's going to be freezing. Whatever. The under should be like 11 in that game. And then I put the Bengals last. Like I
totally agree.
Yeah, I don't want to play the Bengals. I don't want to deal with Burrow. That defense could heat up. I don't want to deal with Jamar Chase. Higgins, if he gets going again, like they've been there. They've won a lot of playoff games. I don't want to deal with them. If the Jets can get in and play either the Steelers, Jaguars, or Bills early, like in the wild card round, like they'll be very frisky in any of those games. And I just wonder. I feel like the Browns. While I don't like the Jets matchup with them, I kind of feel like they're going to brown and fall off at some point. Like they should. It's very impressive how they hung with the Niners, but they won because the Niners kicker missed like a 35-yard field goal, right? And then they won with like a really bad call against Gardner Minshew and the Colts. Like I kind of feel like Watson's like really hurt and not good when he's healthy anyway. Right. And the quarterback thing will catch up to them. And the nice thing about going against the North, because when I'm looking at the standings, it's like, man, the Jets are basically competing with the whole AFC North and the Bills and the Dolphins for these playoff spots. At least the AFC North will beat each other up a little bit, and one of those teams probably falls off. And again, like for the Jets, it's like going to kind of come down probably to this mix with how do you handle your remaining AFC East games? You have 4 left. You have the Bills on the road, you have both against Miami, and you have the Pats on the road. You go 1-3 in those games, you're not making the playoffs. You go 2-2, it's probably a coin flip. You go 3-1, you're definitely making the playoffs. So I feel like that's what kind of makes or breaks it. And the other team that I think deserves to be mentioned, though, still is probably the Texans, because the Texans probably feel like the Jets. Like, hey, we play good defense. Our quarterback's playing really well. You know, they don't have the same quarterback concerns we have. And, like, the Titans are probably, like, going to be bad the rest of the way. The Colts, like, some weeks look awful. Like, they're going to be hanging around, too. I feel like we're going to be rooting against the Texans down the stretch because they're going to be hanging around the playoffs. Because they're not in that bottom tier. That bottom tier is like Colts, Titans, Broncos, Pats. Like there's a clear like bottom 5 or 6 who you put the Broncos and the Pats wins aside because division game, weird things happen. Belichick was due to have a game like that. And I think the Packers just suck. And I had to poke fun at our friends at the Milwaukee bar who was ready to hand out all the drinks for the Rodgers losses. And Now the Packers can't beat the Raiders. They can't beat the Broncos. They just look
They should pay the tabs when the Packers actually win, and Jordan Love isn't awful.
I mean, Jordan Love kind of just looking like Zach Wilson-ish, and like they're just like another team now. It's kind of like when this happened to the Pats, like you're just another bad, mediocre team. Like, welcome to the party.
Superman like suit is gone.
Yeah, like not that it was like even last year when the Jets went in there and like beat them up, like, but like that game against the Broncos, like, man, like you want to talk about a team that just has like no juice and looks completely rudderless. We're going off track on the NFC here. I mean, what? Okay, let's wrap it this way, and then we can bring it back to the Jets. What teams do you think at this point have absolutely no chance to make the playoffs in the AFC? Who are your write-offs?
Oh, dangerous game. Okay. I would go the Titans.
Yep.
It's like they know it, and that's the easiest one because they just traded Kevin Byard today, and
yeah,
they got to get a look at Will Levis at some point this season. It's wild that you could say the entire AFC North is still in this. Well, it's not really wild because we expected that of them. So let's go with the basement teams. I'll say New England, Denver, and the Titans. I'm not considering for the playoffs. And I know New England's coming off their best moment of the season, but I thought that game said more about Buffalo than New England. Then I'd say, man, it's tough to not root against him, but pick against him because he's proven people wrong pretty much every step of his career. The Gardner Minshew-led Colts... No, I'm not going to go there yet. I still think they're in it because of that division. I really do. And they're not a bad football team. They can run the ball. They have their defense didn't have a good day, but they have an okay defense. I'll say the Raiders. So the Patriots, the Raiders, the Broncos, the Titans. The Chargers are probably one more bad loss from there. That's how, it's starting to trickle in where Herbert looks bad.
I mean, the Jets might be able to give him the knockout punch in a couple weeks on primetime.
Good point. Yeah. No, they absolutely can. The Chargers need that game against the Jets. And Staley needs that game on primetime. That's pretty much it. I think everybody else is right in it.
So you have 11-ish teams competing for 7 spots, roughly. And
it's so funny how many teams make it.
Yeah, I mean, you forget the extra spot. I mean, look, we want the Giants game for a million reasons. Really, the Jets' make-or-break stretch is the 4 AFC games after. The Chargers and the Raiders in primetime. You got to bury those bad AFC West teams. You cannot afford conference losses there. And then the Bills and the Dolphins. In my mind, can you get a split in those two? And I think you feel pretty good about it. And, if they beat the Giants and they could handle that stuff, they're going to be in good position. I said I want 7-5 when they get through these next 6. I think that could be doable, but you cannot have, with how good